Order in the court! Order in the goddamn court!
Sir, you're out of order.
Say you would trade, you said Rudy Gay.
Yeah, he's making, I think, $14 million next year, and Markkanen's on like a $6 million deal, and Felicio's on an $8 million deal. So the salaries add up right there. And, we signed Rudy using bird rights, so we were allowed to go over the cap. So, I mean, hey, might as well get the most out of that right now and trade him for something. And then, you still got $27 million in DeMar coming off the books, 24, 25 and LaMarcus next year. And obviously we're talking about Gallinari. I like Gallinari. We can still use that money to sign a guy on a 1-year deal or something like that. And then you still got available cap to pursue those stars and look at role players that fit with your young guys that you're keeping, as well as re-signing guys like Derek White after next year. But you still get those young guys some NBA burn this year.
So you're saying for us to be patient and to just let the inevitable play out with DeMar. He's just gonna walk. He's gonna opt in and then he's gonna walk. Same thing with LaMarcus too. It's like you just gotta endure another season of LaMarcus. Then he's probably gonna walk, and we're probably not gonna end up. You know what? Like you're saying, this most realistic scenario. That sounds like the most realistic scenario where we're just not. We're not gonna make any trades. We're not gonna move. We're not gonna make any moves around those two players, and eventually we're just gonna have to let what's gonna play out.
Yeah, it's like I try to tell people, I don't fall in love. I like looking at dream trade scenarios, but I think people a lot of times assume that the NBA is actually like a game of 2K, and you're not gonna get offered the trades that 2K is offering, and people underestimate how hard it is to pull off a trade in an NBA front office. I mean, it takes – I know you got Woj dropping stuff every hour, but it's weeks long in processes and paperwork and phone calls. And, it's just one of those things that I don't love the idea of trades, and most teams don't. It's too much work for them. They would rather draft the guy, develop him, and have him pan out. And I think just working a trade for some of these guys is going to be A, too much work, and then B, there's nothing wrong with letting a guy walk like we're talking about. Like I said, I value the draft and cap space a lot more than getting something back before these players' contracts expire. And I think that's a lot of people's mindset is return on depreciation and all. And, that works in business, but when your capital here is people – it's a little different. So
and we
I don't think there's any problem with letting them walk.
we got LaMarcus for nothing. I mean, he came to us in free agency the same way, other players do. So we wouldn't be losing anything if he would leave. DeMar DeRozan is the one that San Antonio's the Spurs fans are going to be thinking about. Oh, we got robbed, man. That trade was so bad for us. Because I think inevitably he's going to leave unless the Spurs do, the opposite of what we're all thinking, which is the most likely thing, and they're going to keep DeMar and build around DeMar for the next freaking 15 years. You know what I mean? So that can be another thing that happens.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, a lot of people talk about that trade and say we lost. Yeah, we didn't get back. Like I said, we didn't get back 100% value for Kawhi Leonard, but they want to focus it on DeMar DeRozan, but people forget we talk about Yaka being our center for the future. We got him in that trade. People love Keldon Johnson. We don't have him if we don't make that trade for DeMar. So whether or not DeMar works out, I think we got really good value in that trade. And there's a reason that trade is Brian Wright's kind of signature feather in his cap that got him this job, because from what I hear, he did a lot of negotiating in that deal, kind of prying that first-round pick out of Toronto, because they were really high on both Keldon and Luka going into the draft. They thought if we could have a chance to get both of them, here we go. And it worked out that way. So I think we definitely did get some good value from that trade, not regardless of how it panned out.
Yeah.
Hey, so let me ask you guys a question, because I have a hard time sometimes believing, because especially with Pop as our coach, we all know that he's not a tanker. Like, he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. He's 71 now. He's retiring soon. He's kind of he likes that playoff streak. Regardless of what fans think, he wants to play for the playoffs. as we saw this year. How realistic do you think that the Spurs kind of make a home run, maybe on draft day or before then or whenever, trying to kind of make a move for now that might even include a trade with LaMarcus Aldridge or DeMar? I saw I don't know if it was one of you guys that told me or I saw it somewhere else, but there was like a possibility of trading Aldridge back to Portland and taking along someone maybe like a Patty Mills and getting back like a bunch of draft picks and even like a Trevor Ariza type veteran. That was kind of a move where I kind of was like intrigued by, because I thought Trevor Ariza would be a good fit with this team. I think he kind of fits that small forward 3-4 position that we need kind of to fill up with some depth. We can move DeMar back to the 2. That's not the only situation. Maybe we could ship DeMar to Miami. I don't really know what they'd be willing to give up. But does anyone see kind of a home run attempt in the future just to kind of maintain the status quo of, we're winning now, we're winning while Pop's here, and then after he's gone, we can kind of, swing for the fences with, more of a tank, or not tank, but more of a rebuild youth movement?
I don't necessarily see a home run move coming. I think we explored that this year, all what the market was. As far as what I think and what is that if Aldridge is going to be moved, they're going to try to orchestrate something on draft night, because I think the thought is if we're going to trade somebody, let's move up in this draft and get one of the can't miss guys in the top 3. And to me, those are the only guys worth trading somebody like LaMarcus and going up in the draft for. I actually wrote that article about it on your page, Matty.
Right.
I said this is the weakest draft in a while in terms of star talent, and there's probably 3 guys this year that I think are real franchise cornerstones. So if the lottery shakes out like it's supposed to right now, I'm contacting 3 teams first off on draft night, and that's Golden State Warriors, the Atlanta Hawks, and then trying to think who the third team up there. I think it's the Cleveland Cavaliers are in the mix for that top 3 pick, and I'm seeing what they want for that top 3 pick. And honestly, I'd be willing to trade 2 firsts in a row. That's the Stepien rule, but I'd give LaMarcus our first this year and our first 2 years from now for a top 3 pick in this year's draft. If that's going to get me Anthony Edwards, Obi Toppin, or Danny Avdija, or James Wiseman, one of those 4 guys, I'm taking that deal.
I like Danny. Oh man, I love Danny.
Yeah, I like Danny too. He's an interesting guy, yeah, but it's weird. He, when I started looking at him last summer, and he was projected to go 30th overall in this draft, and a lot of people have us taking him at 13 or 11. He's not going to drop that far. No. I'm convinced he's a top 5 pick this year.
Not after Luka Doncic.
Yeah, same with Obi Toppin. I think Toppin's a top 3 pick. So, those 4 guys I think are our big franchise changers, and seeing if we can. And of course, it's like Destin said, there may be teams asking for a couple of our young guys. We're going to have to weigh the cost benefit on trading one of those young guys. But I think if you sacrifice somebody, like if somebody wants Dejounte Murray, I mean, we have a logjam of guards. I love Dejounte Murray. Absolutely, you really don't want to trade him, but I think you got to weigh if it's a chance to draft somebody like James Wiseman, who's probably the closest thing I've seen to Anthony Davis coming out of college. Do you do it or not? And it's those kind of questions that are going to lead us to success in the future, I think.
Are you talking about the Israeli player?
That's Denny.
I heard that we had some scouts out there looking at him.
They have had them there almost all year. I don't know if they're still there with this coronavirus thing, but they have been constantly watching him since last year. Kind of the same thing as Luka. I know we had one over there scouting both of them at the same time, kind of flipping back and forth between their games. So they're really interested in him.
Yeah, because he looks really good. I would be really hyped if we got a player like that. And then back to what you said as far as people saying that we didn't win the the trade with the Kawhi situation.
Yeah.
I feel like, man, I know people say that, and I know that that's like the go-to. Like, we didn't win it because they won, one championship, but I mean, they didn't really get much from it other than that, I guess. But on our side, I mean, it was either get what we got or ended up with nothing, because people having revisionist history, because Kawhi wasn't staying. I mean, he made it blatantly obvious he wasn't staying. If it was about winning, he won a championship with Toronto, still left. He wasn't staying. So I don't understand. Even Popovich tried to speak with him and tried to talk to him. It just wasn't going. So I don't know what fans are thinking when they say certain stuff like that, because it's like, we weren't going to get anything for him. It was either get what we got or he was gone. So I think
you look at Toronto now, they have nothing from that trade player-wise. They got that title, and they're very good, but they're approaching a big free agency situation where they're going to have to offer some of those guys big contracts, and they may lose a lot of them. And, that Kawhi is a big deal in a championship team. I mean, he's a top 3 player in the league, and Danny Green's probably the best role player in the league. So that's 2 guys, we gave away, but we're looking at stuff we can do for the future, whereas they're figuring out how to stay good and stay under the NBA cap. So, I think you're right. It's a whole different ballgame when people look at it that way. Plus, another thing to throw into that is Kawhi had already said he was going to sign in LA after the next year. So teams knew they were getting a 1-year rental, and that automatically throws out probably 25 to 26 teams in the league that want to trade for him. They all wanted. I knew the Spurs apparently were trying to get Jason Tatum for him, and I know the Celtics for a fact offered Kyrie Irving straight up for Kawhi Leonard, but we all know Kyrie Irving wasn't going to guarantee that he was going to stay anywhere. He left Boston, same with Kawhi Leonard, and so that didn't work out. Philadelphia wouldn't. They took their entire big 4 off the table, so that there was nobody that we're going to get out of that. Lakers, I don't know where this rumor that the Lakers were going to give us, Hart, Ingram, and Ball and all that. No, they took everybody off the table except Brandon Ingram. And I know that looks like a great deal now, but Ingram wasn't doing so hot the last couple seasons. This year, he's really come into his own and all that. So I wonder how people would feel if we actually had done that. But I think in terms of what happened and what we had to deal with, we made the best out of a really bad situation. And, we're seeing the light in it now. If anything, the way I try to look at it too is that season Kawhi set out, that sucked. But, hey, we got us Lonnie Walker. And, everybody loves Lonnie Walker. I mean, we're screaming at the coach to play him more. And that's actually another point I was going to ask you guys, because I have my conspiracy theorist hat on here, because we talk about Pop being set in his ways, but the way I do agree he is set in his ways a lot of time, but the way I see it, that man's been the head coach of the best program in sports for, the better part of the last quarter century. So he knows how to play winning basketball, what is expected of guys on the court. My theory is a lot of times he knows what the right rotations are to win games, but that he's throwing out some bad ones to get guys experience, 1, so he doesn't really care about the losses, and 2, he's all about at least making it look like we're trying to win, because that's our selling point in free agency is we are winners. We are people that gun for championships. We're not a transitional team where you come play out a couple of years to get a bigger contract somewhere else. And that's what I've wondered, with some of the rotations, because they just didn't make much sense. And I know if we can see that they don't make sense, he sure as hell knows they don't make sense. So that's one of my weird theories on it. I don't know what y'all's take on that is.
I think when it comes to Pop, on a more like cynical side of it, I didn't want to say this, but like deep inside of my soul, I feel like maybe he was doing it for a Duncan. And I didn't want to think of it that way, but I was like, man, yeah, like you said, it just doesn't make sense. I was trying to think in my head, like, what would he be trying to do in this scenario with these rotations where he's taking out Derek White and putting in Bryn Forbes in the last 4 minutes? It's like, what are we trying to do here? And honestly, yeah, I think it's one of those things where you might be completely right. It might be one of those things where he's telling the team, play your hardest, but he knows Bryn Forbes can't guard LeBron. You know, like he'll do things.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah. So I think maybe that is what he was doing. I mean, maybe like a cynical side of it is like, yeah, maybe he was doing it for Duncan. I mean, what do you guys think?
Rob, what do you think?
I think like this season was excuse me, this season was like all about playing the money. Like whoever got paid the most was going to get playing time. Like I felt like that's where this season went, you know. Because like you said, it just didn't make sense why Rudy Gay was playing so much. Patty Mills and Marco were playing so much. But you know what? If you look at our salaries, those are the top paid guys on our team. And I felt like the organization was relying on those guys that we're paying to step up and get us to where we need to go. And they just under delivered. And I feel like I don't think our veterans are the type of veterans to be like, oh, these young guys, man, they're actually, man, they're better than me. I don't know, you know, like I don't want them to do good because it takes away from me. Those aren't our veterans. That's not Rudy Gay. That's not Patty Mills, and I don't think that's Marco. So I don't think it was from the player side. I think it was the organization just saying like, hey, if we're paying you, we're going to rely on you, even though these guys are ready. And even though that these guys may, you know, are developing fast but Derek White was the second lowest paid player on our team this season. Do y'all know that? Keldon Johnson made $2,000 more than Derek White did this year. So it's just like, you know what? It puts into question kind of like it kind of puts a little side note like onto why the Spurs were so willing to just move Derek White to the bench and give it back to Dejounte. Well, it's because we're expecting to give Dejounte a lot more money this year. You know what I mean? So we're going to expect him to play for us a lot more. And that makes it easier on the Spurs to be like, you know what? Derek White still, you know, he's playing way out of what he's getting paid to play. You know, like the levels, like he's outplaying his contract, in other words. So it's just like, okay, if it's okay to put him on the bench for another season, you know, and then next year he's going to get paid $5 million. He goes up next season. So he's going to get a little bit more money next year. And then after that, we have to give him a brand new contract. So we have to have money to give Derek White, things like that. So to me, that's just kind of what it boiled down to. The rotations, I stopped trying to think about why they made sense or didn't make sense basketball wise, for the most part. And I just kind of thought, you know what, this season, maybe it's just like the organization saying, you know what, we know these young guys are our future. We know we're going to give the reins to these guys in a few years. But now, this year, next year, it's all about giving the minutes to whoever's playing. I don't know. To me, I just feel like that was the message sent down from above. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
You mentioned in our last mailbag talking about how, you know, maybe Bryn Forbes wasn't ideal, but that, yeah, he had earned the right to try for his big contract. And that may be another thing is, you know, Pop giving him the chance to audition for that big deal. And in the end, we may be thanking Pop because he gave Forbes a chance. Mm-hmm. Forbes had a rough year. That's going to hurt him contract-wise. So we did a bargain deal for Forbes to keep him on our bench as a sharpshooter. Yeah. So this may work out really well in the long run too.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
You almost feel like he was. I mean, or the like you said, like kind of the organization as a whole. To me, towards the end of the season, it almost felt like I was looking back, it almost felt like we were kind of playing for maybe not even this summer, but next summer. You know, like Harrison, like, and all you guys have mentioned, like how much cap space we're going to have potentially, you know, with all the expiring contracts. It's hard to believe that, you know, Pop or anyone in the Spurs organization is going to come out and say like, yeah, just hang in there. You know, Spurs fans are just going to ride out this year and next year. And then, you know, the year after that, you know, endless possibilities. It's hard to, kind of believe that they'll ever come out and say it, but you almost got to think in the back of their mind, they're kind of like, all right, we're not going to have Marco, we're not going to have Rudy, we're not going to have Patty, we're not going to have Aldridge, we're not going to have DeRozan. But, you know, like you said, Rob, you brought up a great point. But we're paying them this amount of money right now. You know, we have the young guys. You know, we have them under contract, at least for the short term. You know, we know they're a future, like you said. Let's just, you know, give the guys who are paying money, give them their dues. You know, Pop, you have the Pop likes the veteran excuse, you know, like we always say. But yeah, it was just, and especially in the beginning of the year when everybody was just flabbergasted why Dejounte, and we didn't see any Dejounte and Derek lineups, and well, it was like, oh, well, Dejounte had the minutes restrictions at first, and then he was off the minutes restrictions, and we still weren't seeing any, and it's just, it just never made any sense. And even some of the beat writers were even asking him, and Pop just said it, just, you know, we hope to get there sometime down the road, and it was just like, well, why not now? Like, dude, we're like bottom 10 in defensive efficiency. We're getting killed on the perimeter every night. Like, it made no sense. And, you know, and now, like, towards the end of the year when all the injuries started happening, I was so excited because we finally got to see Luka get in the game. I think we're going to see a lot more of Keldon. So, you know, towards the end, it felt like but it was like almost like they were forced their hand, you know, with the injuries. So, you know, I think this summer, you know, Spurs fans are going to have high expectations and hopes going into free agency and the draft, and they're going to have all these expectations for these moves. But because especially given the season we had, but I think they're going to come out disappointed because, you know, we're not playing for this summer because there's like you said, Harrison, it's a weak draft class, it's a weak free agency market. You know, it's hard, but, you know, we might have to kind of hold on until next year before we want to have any big expectations. Now, if after next season comes or wins position next year, and, you know, they don't, you know, pull any big moves or they don't have anything, like they don't have any plans, then it's like, yeah, then we can kind of bring our, you know, our front office management into question and kind of start to have that conversation. But, you know, I like to have faith in this front office. I mean, I've had faith in them for 20 years now. I mean, I've been alive for 21, but you get the point. It's really going to come down to, you know, what they kind of want to do for the future and how they want to structure this team. And they have a really good opportunity to structure it in a way that can be sustainable success, at least for, you know, a good 5-10 years.
You see, and you're absolutely right, Matt. And Harrison's point earlier and your point right now tie together. And that's like Harrison's scenario about just being patient and letting the guys let the contracts just expire and then let them walk and things like that. Then we get, you know, the opportunity in the team that you're talking about, Matt. They kind of have to happen together because like Harrison said, I don't see us making any moves. And right now it's hard for us, man. It's hard for us, but I feel like our coaching staff is just trying to win games with those guys, and we couldn't this season.
Well, it's definitely not that Pop is getting old. I mean, I know I've seen that a lot. Like, Pop is just old. Like, Pop's been old for like 20 years, so he's not losing anything. He's still Pop, and whatever reason he's doing it, there is a reason behind it. You know, whether we like the reason or not, there's a reason behind what he's doing. So it's not that he's getting old, like some people have said.
Yeah, all these decisions that all of us are unhappy about, they're not all coming from Pop. It's not Pop's choice to, you know, play the guys that he's playing or give the money to whoever he gave it to. I mean, these are organizational decisions, coaching staff decisions. Who gets these starting spots? Who gets these minutes? Who's the first guy off the bench? What's the matchup like tonight? You know, a lot of those decisions are on the coaching staff. So I don't know, man. It's just a big mystery, but we ultimately just need to be patient. But you know what? I think Spurs fans, for the most part, Spurs Nation is patient. You know, we've never been that type of fan base to be like, oh, we need to win it now every year. No, we learned, luckily, through the grace of Tim Duncan, you know, and Coach Pop. You know, as long as we're patient and we keep working, good things will happen. And that happened in '99. All right, we didn't win another championship until 3 years later. You know, we have to be patient for that one. Okay, and then we won. We never got to repeat. You know what I mean? But we're patient. We won the next year, the year after, and the year after, and then we waited 7 years to win another one, right? So we're patient, but I think we all have confidence as a fan base and organization and what they're doing. This is just such a new time and a new situation for our organization. We haven't been in this situation in 20 some years. So it's going to be fairly new it's going to feel new for all of us as well.
Yeah. And there's new roles as well. I mean, there's been some front office changes as well. So And I think we kind of forget about that. So coming into this season, it's not the same exact, front office. Some things been moved around. New, general manager and all that.
Well, one exciting thing is, last free agency was Brian Wright was announced as the GM like a week before free agency started. RC was still interviewed on draft night when we took Luka and when we took Keldon.
Yeah.
And that. So, it wasn't him calling in the picks. So,